Hey folks, Ardwulf here. Today we have a non-wargaming unboxing courtesy of Columbia Games, who were kind enough to send me The Last Spike. Now, I believe this is a 2015 release, and it is a railroad game, but it feels to me, from what I've seen of it so far, to be fairly different in tone and mechanics from the sort of very established genre of train games that we have. And I had no idea that it was a Mensa Select game, nor do I have any idea what that even means. So again, this comes courtesy of Columbia Games, who were kind enough to send me this. The credit on the cover is Tom Dalglish, who's the founder of Columbia Games, or one of the founders of Columbia Games, and who's one of our great living game designers, actually. And so back on the back, we see that it has 2 6 players. I think from what Grant said in a conversation with him, Grant Dalglish, it plays very differently with 2 players than it does with more than 2 players, let's say 4 or more. So bear that in mind. Age is 10 plus, 45 minutes to play. Color map board, 48 wood track tiles, 45 cards, money tokens, and game rules. Now, I believe this game is I'm going to include a link to the product in the video description, but I believe that this is very close to being sold out at Columbia Games. They do intend to reprint it. And when they do, they might change the style of the box and or the style of the map. This is the old school Columbia Games box, where there is an inner box and a sleeve that goes around the inner box. It's perfectly nice. These things fit fine on the shelf. And then the inner box has the Columbia Games branding on it. I remember seeing these back in the day when I picked up East Front and West Front, which have new editions at this point. And then this is kind of this foldable type box thing. All right, and this game should be very simple, but we do have a Columbia Games catalog, so why not look at this real quick. Rommel in the Desert, which I have an unboxing of, also courtesy of Columbia Games. Here's a whole line of historical games, many of which are very highly regarded, I will point out. Columbia Games has been the banner bearer for the block game mechanic, and this is technically a block game in that there's blocks, but I don't believe there's hidden information in it. Here we have different, some of these are area movement games, some of them are point-to-point games, some of these are hex map games, but all of these have blocks. Civil War strategy. There's some battle games, plus Sam Grant and Bobby Lee, which I believe could be combined to cover most of the American Civil War at a sort of grand operational level, is how I would describe that. There's Victory. This is a World War II sandbox game. Now, I've actually played that, and I didn't like it, but that's because it's kind of a World War II on a generic, not historical map, and that's not my bag. There are people who like it, and actually the system's pretty neat. And there's a ton of expansions for it, too. I don't know if this is still available or not. This catalog is fairly old. There's Wizard Kings, which I believe to be the Victory system on a fantasy map, which I would be completely comfortable with. And there are geomorphic maps, too, so you can fiddle around with them. Here is, of course, Harn World, which we have done many, many videos on here at Ardwulf's Lair. This is their fantasy RPG setting. And there is a system that goes with it, too, but the setting materials are basically all system agnostic, so you can use this for whatever fantasy RPG system you like. Here is High Colonies, which we've also done one video on, and which is a sort of science fiction version of Harnmaster, fairly hard science fiction tone. And then we've got, actually, I didn't expect to see this, so this can't be that old. The digital versions of Julius Caesar, Richard III, and I think there's at least one other one out now. These are available on Steam, and these are digital implementations of those games, which I haven't checked out, but they are on the list. Again, I think this catalog can't be too old, because Alliance, which is a Napoleonic game, which has been in development for a while, I think is not out yet, and I'm not sure that Mountain Men is out. This actually looks kind of like Wilderness Survival, except less bad, and kind of like Source of the Nile, except maybe less squicky. So I'm actually kind of interested in Mountain Men. And then here's, of course, The Last Spike, which we'll look at right now. And Slapshot, which you should have seen an unboxing video of that, which they were also kind enough to send me. So we have here a sheet of block stickers that go on the blocks. And these are very shiny and a nice high contrast, which I appreciate because my eyes are not amazing. Here is the rules, and as you can see, not a complex game. It says 4 pages, but this is a half-size book, so if you see that this is one 8.5 by 11 sheet folded in half, you would be correct. And it's mostly rules in this case. But interesting looking game, and from what I hear of it, it is intriguing. Now, the map. So actually, that's very interesting. So we have a deck of cards that we'll look at in a second. We have a fairly nice tray to hold all this stuff in here, and we've got these wooden discs, which are quite large and fairly nice, and then we've got these black blocks. These are what the stickers go on. I normally am not a big fan of these inserts because they are inevitably generically constructed and poorly suited to the actual storage of the game. But I believe that that will be fine here. So let's look at the map. Now this is a map, again, kind of an old school Columbia map where it's not mounted, it's on really heavy stock. It does lay with the minor amount of bending that you just saw me literally do just now. It does lay very flat, and you'll like lay tracks by putting blocks along these paths between these various landmarks in the American West or Far West: El Paso, Dodge City, St. Louis, Omaha, Denver, Yuma, Laramie, Ogden, and Sacramento. And some of these will go through the mountains too. So then we have a deck of cards, and there's like a band around this, but I can never, my clumsy oafish fingers can never find the bands around these things. I actually did it in this particular case. These look like American poker-sized cards. So if you want to sleeve these, I think you'll need to check the dimensions and buy the right size sleeves, because I think the usual board game sleeves will not work. Other than that, they feel pretty good. They're fairly thin, but that's actually desirable. Thinner cards will tend to chip less and wear better, as long as they're a certain thickness and a certain glossiness. And these slide across each other completely fine. So I have no idea what the rules are here, but we've got a bunch of different cards, all of which have one of the landmarks on the map on it, and there's like a fee schedule here. So I suspect that you're paying that to lay the track in those spaces or something like that, and presumably the target makes a difference as well. Very interesting looking game. Not, let's say, inside my usual wheelhouse, but I have heard very good things about this. And I know it's got a bit of a mixed reputation on Board Game Geek, but you know my opinion of how seriously you should take the ratings on Board Game Geek if you've watched this channel for any length of time. So not very seriously at all. It does look interesting. It is, again, playable from 2 to 6 players, but from what I'm told, plays very differently. And Grant's advice was to try to play it with 3 or 4 or more the first time or two, before you try playing it with 2 players, because there is something of a negotiation aspect to it, which you obviously will feel very different if you're playing it with only 2 players. And then there's a game turn track here, and then you draw a tile. So I wonder if there's you put those tiles in, those discs in a bag or something like that. Or are the tiles the wooden blocks? That's possible too. I suspect that the tiles are the blocks, actually, because the tiles will have some random stuff on it. So this looks pretty interesting. Again, not really the kind of thing that I'm normally jumping all over, but Columbia Games was kind enough to send me this, and I will dutifully attempt to get it to a table at some point. And if I do, you will see a follow-up video on what I thought of it. And these sleeve things actually come back together pretty well too, so let that allay any fears that you may have. So this has been courtesy of Columbia Games, brief unboxing of The Last Spike, a railway building game and a Mensa Select game. If you know what that means, please let me know in the comments below.
Massive thanks to the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair, whose support and encouragement make what we do at Ardwulf's Lair possible. Thank you, patrons. Links to help support the channel are in the video description, so check out the Patreon, the Ko-Fi, and the merch store, where you can get snazzy Ardwulf's Lair t-shirts, drinking vessels, and other cool swag. There is also an affiliate link for Noble Knight Games in the video description. If you buy stuff through that affiliate link, it helps to support the channel with Noble Knight store credit. Thank you, Noble Knight. Until next time, thanks for watching, and happy gaming.